on her identity, and,
Yes.
and that's really powerful intellectual property.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, guys, we might kick it off. We do have one that's Lady Nora Preston. She's put in the notes there. I don't know if her camera is working. I think she might be on the road because she's logged on from her iPhone.
Yes.
So thanks very much, Lady Nora, for logging on as well. And feel free to put anything in the chat. Now, today's an interactive session, guys, right? So for those of you who have not met Gareth before, he's not just a friend, but he's also an Entourage member. And he's also, as well, a very accomplished IP lawyer. But he's also a great guy in the sense that he's really helped a lot of entrepreneurs really protect their ideas and help them sort of go to the next level. The framework for today is we're going to be going through, well, mainly Gareth, and I'll be helping facilitate it and chime in where I think's necessary, but certainly Gareth's show, around licensing your ideas, copyright protection, trademark protection, and patent protection. Often this is a bit of Swahili for a lot of us. So like for example, you, Amy, sort of representing Axon, like, they're growing, rapidly by the week and by the day. So like certainly protecting some of their systems and their processes and their IPs is certainly really, really important. And look, as I look at the other attendees here, like I know, Michael, your business has gone from strength to strength as well. Linda, I'm not massively across yours, but I know Linda, I've had many late night chats with Linda, appropriate ones by the way, but many late night chats with Linda about some of the ideas she's worked on, and it's great that she's working with Gareth now and getting it all in, and there's no harm in spending an extra hour if you have worked out stuff already, Linda, always just covering off on stuff. Probably the other part before I hand it over to Gareth is I just want to say Gareth has always been a big supporter of our philanthropic work, and he's also now spending his time as a bit of a social entrepreneur himself, and a bit of a traveling entrepreneur, and doing work up in the Northern Territory, and obviously has a lot of clients and connections all across the East Coast. So if you did want to, he's in Melbourne currently though, so Michael and Lyndall, before he does leave and when lockouts are sorted out, like if you wanted to catch up with Gareth, I'm sure he'd be glad to do that as well. Now we are recording today, so if you do have a business partner or anything like that you want Gareth to meet or to see this, then feel free to reach out to Gareth directly. I'm sure Gareth will give you guys all a follow-up email with all of his details and give you an opportunity to book in a one-on-one 20-minute obligation-free session with him to see if he can assist you in some way, shape or form. So without further ado, live and uninterrupted from his office actually in Melbourne. Are you an essential worker, Gareth? That's my question. How come you're at your office?
I am very essential. This is an essential service to the Entourage and to
it is fantastic, guys. Can we get a big little Zoom round of applause for Gareth Benson, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Mr. Morello, and always a pleasure. And I love this backdrop behind you there, which we might make reference to.
We will at some point, correct?
At some point, yeah, no, definitely, because we are here to talk about ideas, and more specifically your ideas, because your ideas are wanted in this very changing, rapidly changing world where we are now here all in lockdown, some of us are down south, but that's how quickly the world is changing and can change. And likewise in business, we need to change with that. And as Linda mentioned earlier on, in a matter of few weeks, someone with incredible credentials which don't define her, we've actually developed other ideas around her identity. And that's a process that I like to call finding gold. So I might just start the presentation, but it is interactive. I'm loving the opportunity to hear your stories. I've checked everyone's website out who is on the call, so I have a familiarity with almost everyone here. Lyndall, I was in Geelong recently, and I've also run an education enterprise, so I'm looking forward to sharing there. Michael, Owners Corps. I know Ron from you probably know Ronald. He owns Owners Corp as well. Anyway, Advantage Property, and so we've got some people from property media, great to have everyone here. Warm welcome to everyone. And here we go. Sorry, Lyndall, there's something in the chat there. You're trying to manage it. Okay.
It's up. I'm trying to manage an
No
this issue this one. No worries. It's fine. Thank you, Lyndall.
Easy. Okay, so today we're here to share the fundamentals. Let me just share my screen. Are the fundamentals of intellectual property. Just while I'm getting these slides up, can some people hazard a guess on what intellectual property is, particularly with respect to their business? Just some contributions from anyone on the call.
So it might be a, sorry, this is Harsha.
Hi, Harsha's there.
Welcome.
Great.
How you going? I didn't want to distract you guys because I was doing some ironing. So
that's all right. Great. It's good to have you on.
So it might be a book that you've written or someone else has written that you're publishing. It might be some kind of song. Could be anything really that has your, I guess, your creative spirit in. That's how I would define it.
Yeah, that's a good. That is a good definition. I mean, it is all those things and more. I find intellectual property now, and especially in a digital age, is like oxygen, right? It's we're surrounded by it, but we can very few of us can actually define it. By the way, am I screen sharing okay there? I don't know what I'm. Am I on the slides?
Yes, you're on the slides. Yeah.
I am. Oh, great. Whoops. Okay, good. Have we got a full screen?
Yes.
Okay, well, wonderful. Well,
and guys, feel free to if you've got background noise, yes, keep yourself on mute if you're not talking, but feel free to ask any questions as we go along as well. This is an interactive session, and you'll get the most out of it, I'm sure, if you ask the questions as we go along to Gareth too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. Yes. And the worksheet, by the way, that has been sent to you last night, it should be in your email. We can drop another copy in the chat box if you go, is a bit of a guide. It's actually there for you to take notes as you go. And there's going to be about 4 or 5 distinct sections where you're going to actually apply it to your business, apply this knowledge. So I'm just going to start off with that kind of introduction. And like most great things, I might start with a story. I'm a big fan of the gold rush as a momentous time in Australian history. It was a time that really founded this country, founded the identity of this country, and that stretched not only to the goldfields out in Ballarat down the south, but all the way up to Darwin. In fact, this historic picture is actually from only 150 years ago, taken on the 15th of September 15th of September 1870, which was 150 years ago. And it was actually the laying of the foundations of the first telegraph pole. Now, I like sharing this particular picture, not only because I've done some northern sojourns to Northern Territory, but it's what actually linked this country from north to south. And it was an innovation, a great idea that did this. And it was, of course, at the time, revolutionary. It was the telegraph. Now, this one idea that allowed the Morse code or codes to be transmitted along one single wire, these poles were erected in only 2 years. Okay, this is how quickly that actually ideas can spread. And while it took Stuart years to actually go from Adelaide to the north of Darwin to actually find what is now the Stuart Highway, it was only 2 years later that they actually began building the telegraph line. And really quickly, this connected the north to the south. This historic day marks a big day in Australian innovation in which, after this, the population of the territory and in fact the settling of Australia really accelerated. And I like showing this because I call this finding gold, okay? I'm here with a bit of fun to actually find the gold in your ideas. It should be an adventure. It should be an opportunity for you to drill down to actually look for the alluvial sources of gold. These are your ideas. I believe now in the 4th Industrial Revolution, we have an incredible opportunity to mine our ideas where we no longer need to take resources from the ground. Instead, we need to look within for our own ideas based on our identity. And this is the journey and adventure that we're going to go on today. And I'm going to start off with 3 a golden rule, the 3 golden rules of IP strategy. Okay, so understanding the difference between copyright, trademarks, patents, and designs. We're going to go through all that in detail and then apply them to your business. But what's going to be fundamental in this, in guiding your own way into the future of your ideas, many of you have already established businesses, but looking to commercialize your ideas is really what is key. Many people have many ideas, but not all of them make money or are commercial. And that's why I'm also here to implore you to actually think about how you commercialize your ideas. And that's just known as IP strategy. Okay, it's not, you won't register all of your intellectual property in the course of your business adventures. But having an IP strategy is key, because it will guide you along the road of to what is the most is going to be most beneficial for you and your business. And that's why I have these 3 golden rules of IP strategy. We build with copyright, okay? We build with copyright. Copyright is like the strong foundation. Many of you are, some of you are actually in property as a business, and you will all know that in order to build a building, whether it's small or large, you need to have a strong foundation. And it's the same is true with intellectual property. We build with copyright in our business, and we build our business on firm foundations so it can grow tall. And when it is growing and grown, we need to protect it, okay, to ensure that those foundations don't fall, well, whatever's built on the foundations don't fall down, and indeed increase its value. And that's where we protect with trademarks, patents, and designs. We're just going to mention those probably today. There are other forms of registrable IP, but that's the second point. And the golden rule of IP strategy is to protect your ideas through mechanisms that I will introduce you to today. To essentially create assets in your business, which is the goal. You want to be building a business of value, and therefore you want to be keeping your assets safe, and that means protecting them. And finally, how we actually leverage and we grow is we leverage with contracts, okay? Many people, many of you will be aware that you use contracts in your business, or some of you may think that you may, particularly I think the property guys, they use the, contracts are bread and butter in property, and so should they be in intellectual property, because the notion of leverage is actually how we can show you with contracts you can leverage your IP. Okay, so I'd just like to introduce that nice and early, because at the end of the day, understanding what you've got, which is what we're going to do now, is key, but then what to do with it is the process of commercialization and bringing it to market. Okay, and there it is in just uncertain terms. A commercialization strategy is the overall plan of action designed to achieve the long-term goal of any venture or business. It guides you, it interacts with you, and it involves considering different commercial pathways, okay, to bring things to market.
I might just add on that, Gareth,
Yeah,
as well, that it's probably, make sure you write that, if you should be taking notes, but write that one down, guys, the commercialization strategy, because, probably the biggest thing I see from a monetary or a business viability point of view is to be able to take either existing ideas and existing products or services that we might have in action and then protect them, so that we're able to either invest more time, money, energy, effort, or raise capital on that. So when you're building out 2 types of value in your business, you're building out statute value, that's your net profit before tax on a multiple of X or Y or whatever it might be, and that's what sort of your market valuation is. But when you're building that strategic value, then the commercialization strategy over your IP and your copyright and things of that nature are going to be really, really important when it comes for either exit or capital raising or investment.
Well said. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, having a plan is really, really important. And especially as not only as you're growing, but when you're exiting. So in fact, having the foundations of intellectual property in place means you can actually develop better strategies too. When it comes to valuations, valuing your business towards exit, then having your intellectual property in place and protected is so important, because it's really what you've grown or what you're selling in your business. So we can talk more about that after we go through the foundations of IP, which we're going to understand today. Okay, and that's what we're doing. We're mining for the gold in our business. Some of you will have IP that's already protected, some of you won't, but feel free to jump in at any stage of these 5 core foundations, because we'd love to hear your ideas. Okay, so as you mentioned before, as was mentioned on the call, intellectual property is basically ideas. World Intellectual Property Organization defines it as an area of the law which enables people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent or create. Okay, it's basically a product of the mind or the intellect. So it comes from us. It is, I believe, very involved with our identity. But also from a legal point of view, it is defined as a creation of the mind or intellect that can be legally owned, which means it's created from our minds, but created as an asset of our business. IP laws basically allow for protection through patents, trademarks, copyrights, designs, circuit board layouts, and plant breeders' rights. We're going to explore the first 4 of these today, so you've got a firm foundation of how to protect your ideas. And quite simply, and I can, in 20 years of being involved in IP and practicing, I know that almost every business has some form of IP that they need to protect. But most importantly, the process of how you create the commercialization is how you create value for you and your business. Okay, let's start with the fundamentals of copyright. Does anyone want to hazard a guess what copyright is, or want to give an example in their business early on before I give the definition? How many of you have shared a social media post in the last week or so for your business? Anyone? Okay, there you go. Mr. Morello has, and I know the Entourage do this really well, is that you're actually sharing your copyright, okay? You're sharing any part of your marketing, then it is part of your copyright. And copyright is basically, as I mentioned before, is identity. It involves, its definition is it's a bundle of economic rights, which gives the owner the exclusive right to own the intellectual property it creates. It is the right to copy, and it exists in almost all forms of the ideas of your business. Okay, so it's very true that you have copyright on one side, but it also could be a trademark, right, which is your brand. But the best way to describe it is that it's a bundle of economic rights. So it's also all of the bundle of ideas of your business, which gives you the exclusive right to own the intellectual property it creates. Now, it began with the Statute of Anne, with a great innovation of its time, the printing press. The Statute of Anne actually grew out of the need for writers of the time to actually access pecuniary rights or economic rights from what they created, which was their books and their authorship. And so the same is very much true today. Our authorship within our business, even in a digital world, is even more imperative to have that protected. And that's what copyright does, okay? It can be anything in our branding. It can exist, of course, in our business cards. It's in our web copy. It's in our websites. It's in the business plans that we may be developing. It's in our pitching documents that we might be preparing, but it exists in a lot of different areas. Andrew, could you hazard a guess from the Entourage's perspective where copyright may exist in their business?
Look, from our business at the Entourage, obviously we're producing content all the time. So, you know, whether it's something that's coming from either myself or Jack or, you know, any of our experts on our on-demand portal. I know some of you that are online here today use that quite a bit. And now even to the point where we're producing documentation now. So, you know, protecting all that, it once again adds to that strategic value of our business, but also as well the strategic value of members that are joining us, and I know there's a number of Elevate members that are on the program here today, and on the session. And so, like, for our premium members, we need to be providing more and protecting more and more stuff that can be seen as value for them to engage in on a yearly basis.
Yeah, excellent. No, that's absolutely the case. And I've probably seen that for over 10 years. The Entourage have moved.
It's actually 11 years next month, Gareth.
11 years. Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun, mate. That's
absolutely. I remember 2012, and we'll never forget it.
Yes.
Meeting Mr. Morello at an Entourage pitching session.
Yes.
But it's an education business in essence. And Lyndall, you're working in education as well. And I know you've probably got a good understanding of copyright, being in the business of education. Would you mind hazarding a guess of where copyright may exist in your consultancy? Linda seems to be frozen, so maybe. Oh, Lyndall, sorry. Hello, Lyndall. Okay, so at the end of the day, you're on mute there, by the way. At the end of the day, what we're going to do now is actually, I'd love for people to actually apply that to their own business, okay? So Andrew's given a great example of what might exist in the Entourage business, but I would suggest now, just to encourage some sharing, that that people on the call actually make a note on their worksheet of what copyright exists in their business, what they believe the copyright in their business may entail. Okay, Andrew mentioned before from the Entourage's perspective that could be in their educational material, their content, the online platform, which includes videos. Where in your business lies the intellectual property?
Harsh, feel free to jump off mute as well if you like, mate. You can still be ironing.
Yep.
Yep.
So we're just writing stuff down now.
Yeah. Oh, great. Fantastic.
And feel free to have a bit of a share as well, guys. I think sometimes it sparks other people's ideas if they can hear sort of how it works in their business.
That's why, Lyndall, I thought you might have some things to share or to reflect on, given that both you and Andrew are in education.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having all sorts of IT issues this morning.
Oh, no worries.
But yeah, there's a lot of creative work that I do. I do learning design as part of my consultant work. So
I saw that. Yeah.
It's all of that becomes an issue for IP, and in many cases there are contracts that our client will write up before we begin to say that they own the IP of what I create during the time that I work for them.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a delicate balance to figure out what I own and what they own and what I'm bringing to the project before we start. Yeah, so there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, no, good one. And I think that essentially that is a negotiation around copyright, who owns what. Consultants, look, there's probably many on the call that are consultants too, but the whole nature of consultancy and to consult is actually to use your intellectual property to benefit another. So in the negotiation of the contract, you'll actually be negotiating rights around your copyright, your knowledge. So in Lyndall's case, I would suggest that her experience as an educator, as a learning designer, is the copyright, right? And that might be in different forms. It could be in the educational materials that she has produced or she has designed. In Andrew's case, it could be the videos that feature all the different vision partners or sessions that they have run. There is copyright in the videos there. But from other consultants' point of view, we've got property as well on the call and people who owners corps. There's incredible amount of experience and including media as well, I might add. Anyone with any substantial industry experience has got knowledge to share, and that is copyright. Okay, so now that we sort of have a few ideas, maybe we could share. Actually, was it Jay from Sindog Media? Sorry, I didn't catch your name, mate.
Harsha.
Harsha, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Harsha.
We chatted on Facebook.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay, good. Now put your brand to your name.
I think the first one that comes to mind is really, at the moment, we're creating a just to cut a long story short, a gum tree for a international customer. But the idea was to create it so we could replicate it in different countries. So I don't know how that would work in terms of IP. I have absolutely no idea.
No, it's an interesting one because that's leveraging through licensing, I would imagine. But tell us a little bit more about that project and where copyright probably fits, just to sort of relate it to this issue of copyright.
So I would say the software,
okay,
to be able to rebrand it, so if we were doing it in, let's say where I'm originally from Sri Lanka, and we wanted to do it in Fiji, how would we rebrand it, but maybe not necessarily with the same partners? So the partners who created the software may get a commission for the licensing of that out to whoever else uses it.
Okay, good. Yeah, look, there's going to be some big healthy IP issues here.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
I think almost every area of these 4 or 5 areas of IP might touch on, but copyright definitely. I mean, explicitly in the Copyright Act 1968, software is included as, and protected from that point of view. When it comes to expanding, that's going to come towards the end. I mean, you've got a brand, trademarks, we'll get into that next. But copyright is essential to your business. Leveraging your copyright is going to be key through contractual licenses in the software. Wow, that's going to be great. Looking forward to sharing more about that.
Copyrighting your films, Gareth?
Well, that's right, Nora. Yes, that's right. Because I come from a film and TV background. I used to work for SBS Television and the Australian Centre of Moving Image, and I've been a creator myself and a filmmaker. Much like actually property law and film law is actually more closely related than people think, because much like a property developer, a producer must go out and actually have the right to actually build or create the film. That's not unlike a property developer who says, I want to build this, let's not call it Crown or some big...
call it Morello Towers.
Morello Towers, perfect example.
And I need to go and secure the last 2 blocks on
fantastic. You could probably do this as a reality TV show.
It's a real thing for me, Gary.
It could be both, right? Okay, so Morello goes out. He says he wants to bring up the Morello Towers in Melbourne. And so he's got to go and secure, what do you have to do that? You got to secure the rights, right? And as a property developer, you've got to then engage with the architect and the builder and all the people to make the Morello Towers. And the point is that's very much like a filmmaker going, I want to make Morello the movie, the man, the myth.
Don't question it. It could happen.
It could happen. It wouldn't surprise me that we would see it, because I think that's where a producer or Morello would go and engage with a film producer to then actually go and make it, maybe Channel 9, maybe whoever. But anyway, they will engage the directors, the crew. And at the end of the day, he's developed Morello the movie and Morello the building. And the point is chain of title is what actually links them all together. The chain of title of intellectual property has to flow back to both the producer as well as the property developer. Does that make sense? Or have I? And at the end of the day, it's the copyright that forms the chain of title, okay? And it's really fundamental to understand that, because a property developer knows that in property. He's not going to go and sell half a building that is owned partly by a builder and partly by an architect and hasn't secured the rights. Okay, it's very well defined in property law that you need to have clear right of title. My passion is to help entrepreneurs and small business owners understand that the power of their intellectual property, because they have to have the chain of title in order to build firm foundations to ensure that their projects and their enterprises grow as tall as the Morello Towers. So in short, is anyone else got some, let's just go back to the detail of copyright. Could we have a few people participate? Perhaps Michael, and a little bit of an intro about your Owners Corp so we can also pin copyright to your business.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, perhaps, we've got some detailed written business systems and processes, and I'm assuming that they could come under copyright. We've got
true.
like a sales process and sort of pitching documents like we talked about, whether they could. We do like educational workshop for our residents on video.
Yeah.
And look at putting some mini series together for educational workshops for developers and communities, which in a sense could be.
Yep.
Also, we do consulting with large branded developers, and often their consultancy agreements essentially sort of stipulate that our ideas are their ideas, and that we can't take any ownership of any consulting we do. They take all that our knowledge and information as take ownership of that. I think skimming through the document as I signed it, so I'm not sure how much luck we might have of sort of pushing back, I guess, and around that. But no.
Great sharing. No, that's
Right.
whoops. Speaking of sharing, I'll keep sharing here. But no, that's excellent, Michael, because like just there alone, we can see you've identified 5 or different areas of your business in which copyright has a value, and that's a really important step to make. Most people go, oh, I'm not sure. But when you go through this process, Michael just mentioned a sales process. He mentioned educational materials and videos to create a mini series. He also mentioned his consulting work, okay, all his experience over a period of time. And of course, acknowledging the moving between your ideas and their ideas in the process of consulting is really important. So all of those areas are really fundamental foundations of his business, and they are included in copyright. Anyone else to share? Yeah, Linda, actually,
Linda, great.
Linda, this will be interesting.
So I'm not really sure about the commercial applications of copyright. So at law school, you're taught that copyright protects original expression rather than the original idea. So even though you're not necessarily coming up with a radically new idea, if I say, for example, take an idea from the New England Journal of Medicine that publishes the fact that the Mediterranean diet is an ideal diet for longevity, and create content in Biologica, my own magazine, that says a Mediterranean diet is helpful for longevity. Am I in breach of copyright of the New England Journal of Medicine? So do you mind clarifying?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And
Good question.
Really, really important area of law, big nuance of what copyright is. I mean, copyright protects the expression of ideas, not the ideas themselves. That sounds confusing when you first listen to it, but I'll give you an example. Just because you're starting a journal in genomics in a specific area of science doesn't mean you're the only person in the world that can start a journal. However, your expression of those ideas, the way that you curate those articles, the name itself, the brand name, the way that you write those articles. In fact, that is your own work. For anyone who has written articles, or even back at high school, you were always told that you need to footnote your references. That's to reference anyone else's copyright, anyone else's authorship. But it's a bundle of economic rights, as it says there on the screen. So therefore, the bundle of the pictures, the diagrams, the articles, the way you curate the article, the trademark itself is unique and capable of IP protection. But and that is why it's the expression of the ideas. Does that make sense? It's like in film, right? So only Peter Jackson was able to come up with his, others tried, of Lord of the Rings. He owned, or the studio owned, that expression of the idea, okay? It means that he owned that property, that intellectual property in that film, okay? It's your unique way of doing things. Where it often comes up is say, I have come up with, something really unique. I'm the only educational platform in the world, That's not the truth. The truth is your expression, the way Entourage does its business is capable of IP protection and leverage. And so copyright is actually about protecting the expression of ideas. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And just to be controversial, you had a slide that said copyright is identity.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate that from trademark, which can sometimes be a brand, which is identity as well?
Look, it is not controversial at all. The nuances. I mean, we're going to get into trademarks there. You might have just given me a great segue, Linda. Thank you so much. Is that we might all describe that right now, because trademarks is actually trademark law. As like copyright is a protection of the expression of ideas, trademarks, which we will get to in a moment, is actually a protection of the badge of origin, is what it's actually referred to in the Trademarks Act 1995, a badge of origin, which is a collection of the name, logos, symbols, and designs, which references that product in the marketplace. So they're actually very different definitions, but they protect, both protect identity, but one's protecting the identity of the logo and the brand name, and the other, I think, is the bundle of a collection of things that makes up identity. Both of them protect identity, I think, is the answer.
Actually, a little question on that as well.
Yeah.
Amy, are you aware if Tamara has trademarked the Axon logo?
We're actually in the process of getting all that done. We're just restructuring to be able to put that into place.
Great, beautiful. It'd be definitely worth having a chat with Gareth and go through that checklist with him. Yeah, because I did actually have the conversation with her about it, I reckon about 6 months ago, actually. Yeah. So I wanted to know if she had taken action on that. And it's definitely important considering how much you guys are growing now and sort of, and the other thing is as well, and Amy, you probably have to step away briefly, but one of the things that Gareth was speaking about was copywriting, like sales process. Like you guys have actually nailed the sales process. So like, that's probably a little just reminder for Tamara to speak to Gareth about copywriting that now, because it's fairly unique to you guys. So if you could sort of protect that, that would be worthwhile too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep, great.
It's a bundle of rights, and well said, because what we're finding here is like, oh, well, what's copyright and what's a trademark? And that's good. It's good that we're feeling a little bit uncomfortable going, well, hang on, are they one and the same? Are they different? Well, that's why this process is important, to write these notes down as they relate to your business. Okay, but copyright is the foundation, as I said before. So a trademark can also be copyright. Okay, your patent can also be copyright. Your sales process can be copyright. In fact, copyright is like oxygen. We're breathing it in and out every day. When we share a social media post, we're sharing our copyright. So all I'm suggesting is that copyright is a fundamental to the understanding of IP, intellectual property. It's our foundation right. And one tip that I have for you all as business owners to use, and this is free to use, this costs you nothing. And in fact, by using it, you're actually calling on the protection mechanisms of the Copyright 1968, which gives you more power. Okay, using the copyright symbol on any of your published material or unpublished material, but particularly your published material, will give you automatic protection that you own the ideas that you're publishing. Okay, if you noticed on the slides at the beginning here, I have copyright. I first gave this presentation in 2015. And I have copyright 2015 through to 2021. And therefore, I'm benefiting from the protection, as I will share these slides with you. I'll share them for your own educational use. But basically, I'm going to share these slides with you afterwards. But by me publishing that on anything that I publish, I'm actually putting up a fence around my property. Okay? And that's one of the other really important rules in this, is that until you understand the power of your intellectual property and then you begin to protect it, and it's like putting a ring fence around your property. If you didn't put a ring fence around your property, say you're in Moonee Ponds, Andrew, how long would it be if you left the front door of the Morello mansion open before your plasma screen would escape?
Well, let's be honest, it's Mooney Ponds, guys. So you'd probably get in trouble pretty quick by the unofficial. Mooney Ponds is famous for three things: the Dame Edna Everage, the Cox Plate, and number 3 is Underbelly Series 1. So they might do it, Gareth, but they won't get away with it for very long.
That's quite a lot of IP for Puckle Street.
I
From
know,
one
correct,
street. I tell you what,
Yeah.
making its mark on the Australian world stage. The point is that when we put a ring fence around our property, we actually protect it, and that's like using your copyright. Barry Humphries, I bet you, has been protected his creations through Dame Edna Everage and many others. In fact, he's leveraged many of his ideas. But the point is you have to be the one enforcing it. So it's using the copyright symbols on your materials means that you're automatically protecting that. That also goes for your website, for example. This is a really simple and easy thing that everyone can do, because when people see that, they're less likely to take it, okay? It's stay off the grass. So that's just a tip that I share with you as business owners, because it's helping you protect your most valuable asset, which is your ideas. We might move on now to trademarks, because what we're going to enter into now is into the registrable IP rights. And we don't have that much long. Geez, time flies. We've only really just begun. So let's talk about trademarks, and let's talk about it in the context of this gentleman. I see Morello's changed backdrops. It's like a Dame Edna Everage frock. You've just got a new backdrop.
I did because we were running a little workshop, and I had to change rooms, mate. I apologise,
Yeah.
but I did it seamlessly. No one
You
even
see, that
realised,
was
so
quite.
I did it in about 12. I did it in about 12 seconds. So there we go.
We
I was
had
quite impressed
Mr.
with myself.
Branson on the backdrop. Now we've got Oprah, but we're going to go back to Branson here. Okay, because he is an entrepreneur that I love to reference and tell the story of how, because he really has built a very powerful trademark. Okay, and you can quite clearly see that he owns, a very, very, very infamous brand in the marketplace, and a trademark, which is, of course, the Virgin trademark. Now, as I said before, a trademark is a badge of origin. It is a combination of the elements. It is the logo, the colors, the branding elements that distinguishes one trader from another, in the marketplace, okay? And that's really important to understand the distinction between copyright and trademarks, because almost everyone on the call, I know without a doubt, has a trademark. If you've registered your business, or you're even beginning to create your business, you're in the early stages of actually creating your trademark. A couple of people on the call, can you just mention your brands on your trademarks and write them down in this section here, because without a doubt, it is your area. So we've got Axon Property, trademark. Sorry, Michael, what's the name of your business? I didn't catch it on the way through. Actually, I might have it. Quantum Lens?
United Management.
Sorry, what is it?
Quantum United Management.
Quantum United Management. That is your trademark, sir. Have you registered it?
No.
We'll get onto that in it shortly. The Entourage, a trademark. Okay. What's yours, Hasha? You've got, anyway, everyone on the call should have something to write there. And that is, a trademark is a name, designation, or logo that is used to identify your brand or product and service. And it is protected under the Trademarks Act 1995. Okay? A trademark is a sign used in business to indicate that goods and services come from a particular trader or service provider. It can be a phrase, a word, a letter, a name, a signature, even a scent can be protected. Okay? That's what these large cosmetic companies are essentially selling: a brand, a trademark, and a signature scent. The rest is in the factory, in the test tube. It's everything from the Nike swoosh device to the tagline, "Just do it." In fact, Cadbury has engaged in battles over the use of its color, that distinctive purple, okay, used for chocolate. And there are many examples in the marketplace of people conflicting with the registrations or the fact that they actually own their name. That's often when they come to speak to me as an IP lawyer, when someone has taken their name. And the first question I will always ask is, have you registered a trademark? Okay. it's very much like you wouldn't drive a car without wearing a seatbelt, and it's much the same in the area of trademark protection. You shouldn't be driving your business without protecting your most visible asset, which is your brand. Okay. Now, under the Trademarks Act 1995, you could actually register it in your own backyard here in Australia in order to take it overseas. Okay. Registration of a trademark is very important to gain international protection. And the good news is that if you've registered in Australia, you can actually access a treaty that Australia has signed called the Madrid Protocol, which allows you to protect your brand in at least 118 different countries now, okay? US, EU, for example, registering in the EU, by the way, is so worth your while because you get covered in 16 countries. And many Asian countries, there are 118 different countries. So that's the first step, is to actually register it and protect it in your own backyard first, okay? Because this is why this is how you protect your intellectual property. Now, Andrew, I know we've spoken in the past about Yellow Brick Road, for example. Yellow Brick Road is a very well-known trademark in the marketplace.
So what we did there, guys, and this is really, really interesting, and it's actually relevant for Entourage as well, is that we actually, when we did the trademarks, I was actually involved in a bit of that process, and it was quite an arduous process. But Mark actually had the vision to trademark everything. So to trademark Yellow Brick Road Real Estate, Yellow Brick Road Property Management, Yellow Brick Road Finance, Yellow Brick Road everything, basically across about 50 different categories. And the reason why we did that was a bit of a brand protection. And ironically, not that, and this is it's not secret knowledge, but it's certainly not happening, so not to be brought up or anything major right now. But Jack and I have always had the vision that we'd love to do something in America one day. And it was interesting when we did the rebranding of the Entourage. One of the things that we did was we had a look at what are our limitations if we went to America. And what was funny is, even though we had been around before the Entourage movie had been made, or the television show that a lot of people had watched, they actually, the Universal Studios or Sony or whoever owns them, had gone and trademarked basically the Entourage right across everything. So Entourage, food, Entourage real estate, Entourage education, ironically. So we had to then seek advice on if we would be able to argue it later on if we decided to go to America. And they said, well, one, you've been using it, and what's the term, Gareth? What is actually the term when somebody has trademarked it but has never used it for 10 years?
Intention to use, basically.
Intention to use,
you need to have an intention to use it, not just to block people. Yeah. So we've gone and done that with Yellow Brick Road, done it with Entourage, and we've made sure that we've protected ourselves right across the board. Obviously, it's all relative to the size of your business, guys. So, like if you're Universal Studios, you take the whole kit and caboodle. If you're a Yellow Brick Road, who's a publicity company, you take the whole kit and caboodle because it's worth the investment. But if you're starting out or a smaller operator, just get the basics done. Speak to Gareth. Get the basics done. At least it starts the process, and you can start to actually protect yourself from people sort of taking advantage of you at a later point. That's absolutely right, and great advice, Andrew. No, it really is, because it goes back to that first point, is like having a strategy. Okay, like Linda, you're in the inception of a new business idea, and you're researching and you're doing a lot of hard work in the background, but you've coming up with a name. You're not sure about the name, but at some point in the future, you'll likely, while you're protecting the bundle of economic rights of your new enterprise, you will more than likely, especially in the area of media, protect your brand of biometrics, if that was the right name. So the point is to be prepared, and I'm going to give you some tools to actually be prepared for that, not only for new business owners but also for those in established businesses, because I'm actually going to show you how you can actually do some trademark searches and search for your trademark gold, because there's nothing worse than being in business for several years and working out that you have a competitor who's got the same name in the same marketplace, and they have then gone and registered it despite all your years of development of your business. Okay. So it's about protecting your most visible asset, which is your brand. And you should be doing the searches. As many people are great at doing searches of domain names. They're like, oh, I can't get the .com, or oh, I can only get the .co. But they never look to see if they can actually get the legal right for the name. Okay. And so I'm going to give you some tools here, and so you can actually search for your own trademark gold. Sorry, there was a question there.
Yep. So it's really helpful having both you and Andrew available to talk about protecting and building a trademark. So trademarks are by far the most valuable intellectual property asset. So as a lawyer, we were defending quite a few valuable trademarks. Some of the family fortunes are built specifically around trademarks, even though their industry might be banking, for example. I'm curious as to, firstly, what's the commercial strategy for building a valuable trademark? Is it through public relations and getting lots of media exposure? I'm not really sure. And in terms of protecting the trademark, I think you'll talk about the trademark searches subsequently. But given that we're small and potentially fast growing, how do you actually enforce trademark rights once you've protected them?
All right, so there's a couple of questions there, but I'll start at the start. How do you build something big, or how do you protect something small? Where should we start? Let's start with protect something small, because it makes more sense. Generally, Linda, what I say to business owners, and this may apply to you and potentially anyone else, in the early stages of a side venture, is that I believe after 2 to 3 years of growth, you should think about trademark protection. Why then? Because then you've actually got a brand worthy of your protection, okay? Unless it's a really competitive name and you really want to make sure that you have it before anyone else, okay? Because even take a small business, for example, SME, you are out of the marketplace. The first year, you're probably just trying to work out how the business works. You're probably just trying to survive. You're probably trying to invest in your website and in your marketing, in just getting your first customers in the door. But come year 2 or 3 and you've managed to survive and the business is growing and you've got clients, right? You wouldn't have survived for 3 years if you didn't have clients. The point is then you have, year 2 or 3, you have a brand and a name worthy of your protection. And therefore the investment, which I might add is relatively small, it's around $1,500. It's a month of your Entourage membership to protect you for 10 years, okay? That's what it gains you. It gains you 10-year protection. So for me, being both business as well as an IP lawyer, I go, oh my goodness, it is the most worthwhile money you spend on protecting your business, because the asset can grow enormously in that 10 years. But even if you sell that business after 10 years and you're an accelerator and you go and you're building multiples, at the end of the day, you're going to sell it with the brand. And how much is that brand worth? Okay. Going back to Virgin here, I mean, Branson has been since 1968, I believe he began with the brand and it was only a magazine then himself. And now he's leveraged it into, so many different areas. And the power of his brand allows him to do that. However, when you look at the Entourage, they're in around 10 years and they're looking to go to the States, that brand has worth. If you looked 20 years ago at what the top brands in the world were, what do you think they would have been? The most valuable brands in the world. Not hard to guess.
Banking.
They're off and they're still there. They're fast food companies, okay? Because they're everywhere. McDonald's is one of them that's still up there. McDonald's, Coca-Cola, and car companies, right? Ford, Mercedes-Benz, BMW. Do you know how many, what are the new brands are in the top 20?
Tech, that's
right. Because that's also reflects on where the world is at and how quickly our world is changing. Our brands are changing too. Google is one of the most powerful. Apple is right up there as well. The point is all of these have a value, extreme value. I mean, billions of dollars of value, but so does your business. because every time you're out there and you're marketing your products and services, you're actually adding value to your trademark, but only if you've protected it. Because the worst situation, and it does happen, I see it frequently, is that business owner's been running for 10 years, call it Charters Paper, you know, in not far from Moonee Ponds, out in the western suburbs, down in Brooklyn, Michael Scaffidi's, you know, running his family business, Greek family business to his second generation. Charters Paper's never been protected, but yet, and it just took one other person, another business owner, to come and take that name. And there's been no other bigger story than that, than the story of UGG boots versus Deckers. It's actually in the textbook. It really, and that's a small business owner, Russian immigrant family, built this business called UGG. You may have heard of them. UGG boots, and an American company came in, took the trademark, and forced them and everyone else off that in Australia. Okay, and that's it's a cautionary tale in the importance of protecting your brand name. And I'm going to show you a quick tool that you can do this. We're going to run out of time, so we're just going to keep a very quick tool. I'm going to actually show you. And so, for example, if I'm doing a search here, just if you'll be able to gain access to this through the slides. But if anyone can still see that on my, or is it?
Yep.
You can see that? Okay, great. So an example of, let's look at the Entourage. Have you guys got it? Oh, there's quite a few. The Entourage is interesting, right? Look at this. Now, Andrew told us how he had done, they had looked into it. But look at the extent of people that actually own the Entourage name. Microsoft, Hyundai, Home Box Office. The Entourage, remember the movie, that came out at the same time, which was one of the problems. In fact, they're registered. Are you guys actually registered?
But what we're under education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an important distinction, because these classes on the side, you can register, you can have an Entourage that's in Home Box Office, it's actually in entertainment, and you can have an Entourage in 41. There you are. Oh, that's education. So the point is that two, you need to ensure that you are protected in your class. So if you're in Myers and you're in clothing or fashion, if you're in media, you're going to be in advertising services, which is class 35. If you're in education, you're going to be in class 41. If you're in property, I believe that's in 45, building and construction. So the point is registering your trademark is really important. And by looking, let's try someone else on the call. Who wants to have their trademark analyzed? Anyone? Okay, Michael. Yeah, let's see where you're at. Quantum Limited. I did see your website. It's a very impressive website, Michael. Quantum Limited. Is that it? Have I spelled it right?
Quantum TUM.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
United Management.
United. Okay, good. You got that, because look, there's already 124. Good news is that no one's got that exact name. Okay, you've got a 0 result there. However, it is relevant, and this is why it's always worth getting an IP professional to help, because I'm a bit worried about this one here, because the Trademarks Act allows you to protect your trademark in the Australian marketplace, but it can't be similar, okay, or deceptively similar. And I would be a little bit worried just looking at this. Quantum, you might be in the clear.
We don't have limited in our name.
Okay. It was just Quantum United, was it?
Yeah.
Did I do it right the first time?
No, Quantum United Management.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Quantum United Management. Good news. None there. So
Great.
This is a relief for Michael, okay? Because he's been out in business. How long have you been out in business, mate?
Yeah, 15 years.
15 years. And he hasn't protected, and I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just saying the good news is no one's got it. And the second part of this good news is that once you've protected it, you're actually protecting the last 15 years of your business and your brand that you've built
Okay.
in that period of time. And you are creating an asset that will be that with your business for the next 15 years. And honestly, it only becomes a problem when it becomes a problem, but you wouldn't leave your car out on unlock with a car with the motor running, right? You put it behind the gate, you use these IP tools, you keep things safe, you put your car in the garage, you register your assets and you keep them safe. So when you sell the business in one day in the future, or even if you have your business valued, like Mr. Boros, you can bet your bottom dollar that Yellow Brick Road has a very good IP valuation because that brand is a household name.
Yeah.
Okay. And his personal brand goes to speak to that as well, and all the rest. The same should be true for every other Entourage business and any other business owner. Whether you're in Linda's stage and you're conceiving that intellectual property, or you're Michael's and you're 15 years down the track, trademarks have a power to you. And you wouldn't drive your car without the seatbelt. So protect your most visible asset. And that's the power of trademark. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just a very quick question. So the legal entity is Quantum United Management. We often talk to the business Quantum United, or write it as Quantum United. Would you trademark that other version of the name as well?
What's the brand? Sorry, what's the most visible brand? Is it?
So the entity is Quantum United Management.
Yeah.
We'd like to sort of trademark Quantum United as well.
Yeah, well, I would say you don't need to have the identical as your proprietary limited company. You want to register what you're using in the brand out in the marketplace, Michael, and also it goes with your logo or your taglines. In fact, another tip that I can share with you all is that as an IP professional, I highly recommend that you register the name, the logo, and the colors that you use. Look at the Entourage, and they're blue and they're reds, and they're the reds and they're blues. The color scheme, and if it's appropriate and relevant to you, the tagline. Okay, I think Entourage's is entrepreneurship fulfilled, for example. Nike, just do it. Okay. The tagline, and this is another tip, if you are in a competitive class, having a tagline will allow you to create a distinctive brand that distinguishes you from all others. So I recommend, to gain the value, of what it costs, which is less than $1,500 in most cases, you put all those elements together, you're actually protecting the value of your marketing efforts over the last 15 years. Okay.
So you can bundle those together in the application.
Well,
you're not doing them all separately.
Yeah, it depends on your strategy. Like you've seen the Entourage, they got to, anyway, let's not use it. Apple will have the name, they'll have their logo, they'll have different brands. Depends what business you're in. If you're if you're manufacturing food goods and you've got several hot brands that sell, you want to register every product that's on the shelf that are selling. Not every product, sorry. Only the ones that are selling, that's why if you look at fashion houses, fashion labels, they will register, they'll definitely have the name of the fashion house registered. Okay. Often they're then the name of the designer themselves, Hugo Boss or Versace, but then they'll register certain designs every year, which is another form of IP, which we're going to get into in a moment. Of their most popular selling brands. But in short, your umbrella brand, without a shadow of a doubt, if you are in business, should be protected. Okay. And the value of that can be seen in successful entrepreneurs around the world, including Mr. Branson and many, many others. Okay. Boros, Branson, Musk, all these guys who are, they're creating multi-billion dollars businesses, but it's Franco Cozzo. Okay, it's down the road. All right, what a brand, and let's not talk many.
Maybe let's not use him as an example.
Maybe he's not a great example, but he was a very good. He
was a big brand, correct? Exactly it. So
there's a lot of things you can learn from all these people. But it's if you are 2 to 3 years in business, you've got a brand worthy of your protection because you have created it, and you've probably put so much more in to it over the years in terms of marketing and effort that it's worthy of your protection. Okay, let's move on. And now we've given you a few tools to use too. Patents. Okay, we're going to jump from one into one other very big area of intellectual property. Patents have been for centuries protecting the inventive step, the new ideas of enterprising makers and creators the world over. A patent is a legal enforceable right for a substance, method, or process, okay? That's what's really key. It's got to be a new and inventive step, okay? Now, patents have a couple of, once granted, a patent will give you an exclusive commercial right to your invention. Now, there's a couple of myths here that people love to cite, and they go, oh, it's so expensive and it's not worth the money, it's not worth the paper it's printed on. And I will go back to my golden rules here and just say, look, it's about a strategy. And sometimes you need to prove when you're capital raising that you actually have an asset worthy of your protection and that you have something very, very unique. And the fact that you can get a patent on it means that by law, it is a new and inventive step judged by a patent examiner. So strategically, if you're in the area of, science, Linda, and you've come up with a new way to create aging, right? Sorry, prolong age, to slow down the process.
Delay aging.
Sorry, yeah, prolong your life, but delay aging.
Correct.
Okay, so that's a new inventive step, and you've created a drug, a scientific method to do it. That's a new inventive step. And when you're going out to business, or even if you're capital raising, before you've even gone out to business, and you're going to venture capital funds and saying, let's invest in this, then you may wish to gain a patent over it. So you can actually, they go, well, she's right. It's actually been vetted. This is a new inventive use. Okay. That's one example of a patent. And they're not all 20 years long. A standard patent is. There is this other area that's available at the moment called innovation patents, which is only 8 years long. So this can be areas like tech. And I've personally worked with, entrepreneurs who are building software and otherwise that have gone for an innovation patent because their software may need, the life of some software now may not be more than 8 years old. So that's an option and opportunity as well. And just so you know, to give you the whole full spectrum just in one breath, there are also provisional patents, okay? And this is when you're exploring an idea. They're a lot less expensive than the standard patent, but you can actually get a patent for just 12 months to explore an idea. And then at the end of that 12 months, you can roll it into a standard or an innovation. And I highly recommend that as a strategy if you are in an area that you believe is big, going to be big, but you don't want, you're obviously going to create an IP strategy around what is the best patent to use. Has anyone got any discussion? Everyone's got $1 million idea. Anyone got some discussion that they'd like to have now about patents or patent ideas relevant to their business? By the way, you should be writing down some ideas as we go here, because it's in the application that you will find the gold that lies within your business.
I just want to point out to you, probably tried to look at our website, Film Networking Industry. We've had a lot of issues with that website and it's not updated. It's pretty old, but I didn't know. We've got WordPress, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, but I just didn't know which link was the best one to give you there. So I apologise for our
no problems.
A lot of issues there.
Look, patents, I know you're in the area of film or, patents and film. That's an interesting one. It came up on a call 6 months ago when Andrew and I we focused on a bit of film and TV, and actually Thomas Edison created the kinetoscope, okay, which if you go down to the Australian Centre of Moving Image in Fed Square when we're open in Melbourne again, luckily I managed to get to that on Wednesday or Thursday night just before. They actually have a historical image of the original kinetoscopes, which Thomas Edison created. And you might remember these things as a child as well, where the flip books, the early phases of the flip books was a machine called the kinetoscope, where you watch a horse jumping over a hurdle. Okay, and now this was patented by Thomas Edison in the late 1800s, where he and 8 producers actually owned the monopoly over that one machine, which broadcasted the early form of cinema. That is how, whether for good or for worse, that is how patents have been used strategically to earn monopoly of rights. Anyone else got something to share on patents? Linda, have you had much to do with science and patents in your experiences?
So in terms of clinical trials, we test the lead molecule for its efficacy in humans. And I guess in terms of the entrepreneurs who progress that lead molecule from the bench to the patient, it's really valuable for them to patent that molecule, because if we do actually prove that it's safe to use in humans, then they could then get registration and subsequently commercialize and distribute it. And that's hugely lucrative.
Yeah, that's the new inventive step, yeah, and the new process that would create patentable subject matter, which, as you say, is can lend exclusive commercial rights to the company or the business owner. Often patents are attributed to the scientists that create them. And who owns the patent next is the big commercial question. So yeah, that's a good example.
Who does own it? So one specific example is electroporation. So you may have heard of genome editing, and
Yes.
one of the applications of CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing is its ability to modify T cells so that they can specifically target cancer. The technical problem with that is that the Cas9 molecule itself is quite difficult to get into the intracellular membrane, but a postdoctoral student at the University of San Francisco came up with a new method where he effectively electrocutes the intracellular membrane to perforate it. So he introduces holes into the intracellular membrane so that you can introduce the Cas9 genetic scissors into the DNA to make the relevant edits. And that's been spun out of the university lab as a company. And I wonder, is it the university student who owns the patent, the university itself, or the company that spun it out?
Look, it's a good question, because actually this is going to come back down to contracts and licensing. Whenever you sign an employment contract, believe it or not, if you are working for CSIRO or a university, you will have signed away your IP rights. You might be attributed for the patent, but actually the owner of the patent will be the university if they actually go to that effort. It's much like if you're working for the Entourage, Andrew's, I'm not sure what his proportion is, but any of the results that the employees of the Entourage make are signed back to the company, okay? So
I'm not going to lie, that department obviously isn't my forte, but I am aware that obviously the content that is created here becomes IP.
it's owned by the business.
Actually, I'll give everyone, and I'll just sorry, I will let you guys keep going at 11:30. I do need to step away.
Yeah,
but
no problem.
There's a couple of things I wanted to add to that. Well, if you guys want to stick around and do a bit of a Q&A with Gareth, I think it's a great opportunity to get pick his brain. But make sure you do yourself a favour and book a one-on-one session with him. There's no obligation with that, and I think he will definitely take you down the right path. He's assisted a number of our members at the Entourage and friends as well. But interestingly enough, if you're looking to create a bit of a benefit scheme for your staff, what they actually do at Google is, yes, whilst you work at Google, you everything you create at Google is owned by Google. But what they do to encourage you to do extra work outside of work hours, they actually reward you for your ideas. So let's say, for example, you come up with an idea and then Google uses it, they will give you a bonus of some structure or whatever it might be. And I just thought that was a really good way. So they still own it, but to encourage people to do things outside of their work hours, and generally, if you work for a company like Google, you're on the path with Google, right? You're you bleed Google, you bleed G, right? So I think it's not a bad idea, and it's not something we've implemented just yet at the Entourage, but I think bit by bit, which we are trying to create, now with 49 full-time staff here, we're trying to create an environment where we are encouraging people to be a little bit more entrepreneurial within the business, and so it will be something, obviously, I think that we'll look to expand in the future as well.
Yeah,
That might be useful to everyone,
Yeah,
just as
yeah.
a bit of
I think it's
a
really
reward
relevant.
system for your team. Yeah,
It's really good point, because as you grow, as the Entourage has grown, then all employees traditionally have shared their ideas for the benefit. They've created ideas for the benefit of the company, but forward-thinking companies are rewarding their employees for in owning their ideas. And whether it's a business like GE, which began actually with Thomas Edison, and then and had thousands of employees, an entrepreneur will always be the founder, have the foundation of those ideas and own those ideas. And as you grow that business, you'll want to share them in different ways. And that's where look, I won't go into now because it's a long road of how you actually can divide up the IP of that company as well. It could be shareholdings, or you could be licensing it. And I do want to, this time has just gone so quickly, and I want to leave time for questions, but I'm going to finish just on one section here on licensing. And maybe will I share my screen? I don't know.
Gareth, before you go into that, guys, I apologise. I do have
You've got to go. No, thanks so much, Andrew. Great to have you.
And they've been sitting here since 11 because they came straight from the airport. But guys, thank you so much for participating today. Stick around and have a little Q&A with Gareth. But I certainly recommend, especially Michael, definitely recommend you having a chat with Gareth, because I know where your business is heading. And Amy, it'd be good for you and Tamara to have that chat with Michael. If anyone wants to get in touch with me, feel free to email me. Gareth can pass on my details and send you directly to me as well. So beautiful. Fantastic.
Thanks, Andrew. Cheers, mate. Appreciate it, really.
Bye, Linda. Bye, guys. Bye, Amy. Bye, Harsha. Nice to meet you.
By the way, if you've got to go at 11:30, I totally understand too. But I did want to pass on. If you don't, they're more than happy to stick around and share. I have shared the link that Andrew referred to, because one of the opportunities, and I feel like we've only really just sort of scratched the surface, which tends to what happens with IP, which is why an hour and a half just goes like that. However, if you want to really get into the nuts and bolts of your idea, what I do is that I offer a strategy session, which is just a 45 minutes to go over the worksheet, okay, to talk about the value of the ideas that are in your business. I'm more than happy to set up a time in the next 2 weeks to do that. I've dropped a link there now, and you can gain access to that. But I'll also be sending around the slides to everyone, and there's a lot more detail in these areas in the slides. I do want to finish on one note, and then open to some questions. And that is the value of actually licensing, okay? We've touched on copyright, we've touched on trademarks, we've also touched on patents. Designs, I'll leave for another time, unless you're a design business. Doesn't appear to be anyone on the call, so that's fine. But actually, it is all about leveraging, and I'll just finish on this note, or put the final couple of minutes into this one. I'm just going to go back to my slides here. Okay, can you just confirm that they're there? Okay, that's good. Right. Patents. Okay, it is about leveraging. Now, look, another scientist, there's heaps to share, you'll see, that actually found a groundbreaking, some groundbreaking areas of our laws in another area, was actually Newton. Okay, now Newton found the power of gravity. He established a number of laws in relation to physics. And in that first law, he said an object will not change its motion unless it's forced to act on it. Okay? In other words, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Well, the same is true for intellectual property. The more time that you spend on actually understanding the intellectual property that you are creating, that is part of your integral identity of you and your business, and the more time that you spend on that and apply pressure to, then the further that intellectual property will go. Whether you're talking Entourage or Branson or Mark Boris, all of them have leveraged their intellectual property for their own benefit. And the good news is that there are a number of contracts that can help you do that. It is about leveraging your idea through licensing. Pardon the slight error in that. Shouldn't have pointed it out. But, you know, any of these documents in an online business or otherwise can really assist you. Every business owner should have contracts in place in your property. That's not new. Terms and conditions on your website. You know, click wrap purchase agreements if you're selling things online. Subscription agreements like the Entourage do, right, is also a way you leverage your intellectual property. Fee for service agreements if you're a consultant, or consulting agreements. All of these things have a value to you, and if even to leverage it, as we're going to see in the Entourage, in their upcoming next series. You know, they've got a lot of franchise owners on the call, whether they're Boost Juice, Janine Ellis, or they're people that have leveraged their intellectual property to the hilt. Okay, Boost Juice. What's the difference between Boost Juice and the corner milk or juice bar? The difference is highly leveraged IP, and that's what a franchise agreement will do. So having an understanding of those agreements is also a big part of it. It's the last part of the worksheet as well, where you can actually foreshadow how you can then leverage and apply pressure to leverage your idea through licensing. That's all from me. More information on from IP Australia. As I mentioned before, we have a special offer. I enjoy assisting others find the gold in their ideas. I'm more than happy to spend 45 minutes on the other side of this call. Please just connect with me and we can set up that time. Thank you very much. It's all exciting adventure. I hope you don't mind my my enthusiasm for Sovereign Hill, which is a great part of a great Australian story. So that's it. Thank you very much. Ken, have I got any questions? I'm mindful of everyone's time, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions or any reflections. I have only just had a chance to see these comments, by the way, so heads up if I missed anything.
Thanks, Gareth. It's a great presentation. Appreciate that. I'll be in touch.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, feel free. I'll reach out to you and we'll set up a time. Linda, good to see the progress in your IP from this, and I think Linda was on a session on the 21st of January, and she's definitely on her pathway.
Yes.
Yeah, all good. And I think
Thank
we might
you,
have lost
Gareth.
her on this. Except, yeah, Amy, we could set up a time with you and your boss, if you like, rather than sort of send you another dry recording. What I'd prefer to do is set up a time with you both where we could just have an open chat about intellectual property, if that would suit you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds really good, actually.
Yeah, because it's look, this is it's a big area. There's a lot of information. We try and make, you know, I try and make these interactive in the worksheet, but I'm happy to spend more time with people. And thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, I'll let you get on with your days.
Thank you very much. Very informative. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks a lot, Nora. Cheers.
Bye.